First question, I'll go to Victor McConey. Go ahead, Victor.
Good afternoon, Chris. Happy holiday.
You too. You as well.
Chris, 2 weeks ago, you mentioned about Elvis Andrus, the future role in the organization. Right now, at this point, what will be that role on Elvis Andrus and as well with Rougned Odor? Thank you.
Good question. I think for both guys, Elvis, I've obviously, informed him that Kiner-Falefa will be our starting shortstop to start the season next year. Elvis is going to have to come in. From everything that I've talked to him about, he's getting himself in great shape. He's in a good headspace. He's just going to have to move around the infield, potentially play third base. Obviously shortstop with Kiner if he ever needs a day off or has to miss time. But I think right now it's up to Elvis. I think, if he gets himself in really good shape and, he still believes he's an everyday player, that's going to be really good in this league. So I kind of like Elvis Andrus with a little chip on his shoulder. He's got a lot of hunger to kind of prove people wrong. And, I think, like I said, it's up to him. And the same kind of goes with Rugi. I think Rugi's in a little bit more of a competition with Nick Solak. I've informed Nick, I wanted him to kind of solely focus on second base. I want to see what he can do. I want to see how it looks. Last 2 years, we've asked Nick Solak to kind of move around, play center field, play third base, play second base. I think his best position is second base. So I think we got a pretty healthy competition with, obviously Rugi's got to earn his playing time. I think, he hasn't been as consistent the last couple of years. That's one thing I've stressed to him. I want him consistent on both sides of the ball. Obviously, offensively, he's got a lot of power. He gets a lot of big hits for us at times, but the consistency just hasn't been there. So, he needs to be more consistent on the defensive side as well. But he's also going to have to move around a little bit, not just only play second base, maybe third base, maybe even a little bit of outfield for Rugi, whatever he's open to.
So at this point of the day and the off season, if any possibility to see Elvis Andrus at the corner, at the third base on the opening day lineup, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, it's, he's going to come into camp and that's probably where I see him, likely getting more playing time just because we have an open spot there. And he wants to play every day. And he's obviously expressed that interest to me. He wants to stay in the lineup. He knows he's not going to be as short every day, but, he knows that if he hits well and he has consistent at-bats, quality at-bats for us, then he's going to find his way into the lineup. So if that's third base, then yeah, I mean, that could definitely be that.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to Jeff Wilson.
What's up, Chris?
Jeff, how you doing?
Good. What do you think about your team being so active?
I like it. I think, obviously, I kind of wanted to state this from the beginning. It's an exciting time. I know that, we have a very young roster. But I think, what we started last year, honestly, for a couple years now, we try to instill a culture and a philosophy into how we play and prepare and, how we conduct ourselves. And, we're starting to fill a roster full of young, hungry players that, some of them have a chip on their shoulder, but they have a lot to prove. And I think, if you fill a roster full of enough of those guys, they're going to fight with each other. They're going to learn and grow with each other. And it's exciting. Obviously, we have a core group of younger players that all represent that model. And it's an opportunity for us as an organization to kind of build something from the ground up. And, these moves obviously are right in line with that. I love the Dane Dunning, the Avery Weems. Dunning is somebody that, we've been targeting. And, after talking to him, hearing his optimism and, his excitement about coming to us and learning and growing and getting better and improving. Because frankly, we have to improve. We have to improve. It's hard not to improve from some of the things we did last year because we weren't very good. But I think it's, like I said, it's a really cool opportunity as an organization to kind of build with these guys. From a staff, obviously, we just hired Chris Young. All these things kind of fit into place. We're all kind of building together and growing and developing at the same time.
Were these moves, Lowe, Dunning, Dahl, were they targets after, or were those positions targeted, I guess, after you guys kind of recapped everything after last year and maybe even after instructs?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, some of it was, targeted position wise, but, obviously the personnel, I think was a big part of it. I know Nate Lowe is somebody that we've had our eyes on for a while. We love the makeup. The kid can really hit. I'm going to challenge him to be as good defensively as he possibly can be. He's got to work at it. But the mentality is right along the lines of what I just talked about. David Dahl, just got up after talking to him on the phone one time. The excitement about becoming the best player he can possibly be, and this guy's been successful, really successful hitter. I know last year was a down year, but it was a weird year in a lot of ways. But what this kid can do with the bat in his hand and what he's open and wanting to become, I think fits in line, man. The he's hungry. He knows he's got a higher level to him. And he can't wait to get there. And that's exactly what we want when we acquire players.
Is Dahl going to be the left fielder and Willie DH, or is that TBA?
I think it's TBA, but obviously, I think Dahl's an above average defender. I've seen it. I've watched it, the 3 years I was in LA, he was a really good outfielder, playing in a tough place in Colorado as well. So I think getting him out of Colorado, he'll be an above average, left fielder for sure, with the ability to play center. I've challenged Willie though. Don't put it past Willie. He's working really hard right now. You never know what's going to happen when you come into camp. The season starts. We have a long way to go. So, be it injury or just performance. I've challenged Willie to get faster. Obviously get stronger, get more mobile, be more athletic, and he's doing those things. So we'll see what it looks like when camp comes in. But it'll be a healthy competition to start camp. Amongst all of our guys.
All right. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks.
Okay, the next question is from Alex Plank. Go ahead, Alex.
Hey, Woody, how are you doing?
Good, Alex. How are you, man?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much. So in regards to the mental toughness, and it almost feels like the mental toughness for your team, for everybody was challenged. Do you feel like that's going to overall make you guys a better squad heading into, especially as a younger squad?
Absolutely. I think it's a big part of what we do. I think it's something that I'm going to really challenge, our guys on. We had to deal with a lot last year from a mental standpoint and obviously from a physical standpoint as well. But, I think that mental toughness, that, mental stability is something that, not only are we going to work on our physical attributes and, we're going to put the work in on the field, but I think that's something that we need to address, that, younger players typically have those ups and downs. They kind of go, in that roller coaster mode. We got to avoid that. We got to try to get them on a stable plan to try to tackle. We got 162 games. We don't have 60 next year. It's a full season. It's a full 6-8 month season that, these guys are going to have to grow a lot. They're going to have to learn a lot. And we got to support them through it.
What is Ronald Guzman's role going to be heading into camp? Does he still have an opportunity to win his job back, or is it just straight nail out?
No, I don't think anybody. I think everybody has an opportunity, honestly. Obviously we were excited to get Nate Lowe, and listen, what you want as an organization is to have a bunch of really good players that they can battle it out and compete. Obviously Guzzi's, had some ups and downs for the last couple of years, and, he's going to come in. I hope he comes in, ready to go. He's playing winter ball right now. He's doing pretty well there. So I think it's on him, just like it is on Elvis and some of the other guys. It's, they got to come in hungry and ready to play, and they can absolutely earn a job. I'm not saying that, he's going to push away Nate Lowe, but there's a way we can get both of them in there if they're both performing at a really high level.
Appreciate it, Woody. Thank you.
Of course.
Okay, next go to CJ Nitkowski.
What's up, Skipper? Not too much, man. Hey, Nate Lowe, since his name came up, it was pretty interesting listening to him. Pretty confident. And one of the things that he was talking about was not getting that opportunity to hit against lefties while he was with Tampa. Is he going to get a legitimate chance to do that? I know you probably don't have much information to go off of as far as what he's done versus lefties.
Yeah, I think so. I think, I don't love platooning. I really don't. I don't like the idea of it. If we have to, we have to. I think I'm at the point now where, you give guys opportunities and you hear what they have to say about how they're going to handle the lefty. And it's not even just about left-right. Sometimes it's about the high-low game, about spin. Can they hit the high fastball? Can they hit the spin? Can they hit left? All those things we take into account. So if there is an issue, I would love to hear Nate's take on it, because he's had success against lefties. I know it'd be in the minor leagues, but at the same time, he hasn't really had the chance in the big leagues to face them on a consistent basis. So I'll get a look with my own eyes. I'll talk to him. I'll get a feel for where he's at. A lot of times what I see with my eyes matches sometimes, most of the time, the numbers. If you see a little bit, something that doesn't look right, there's a little, fear or whatever it is, inability to kind of handle the bat, it typically shows up over the long term in their bat. So I'm excited to see it. He's had success, and obviously I want to see if he can handle that left at bat.
JD mentioned the other day about the concerns about filling the starters' innings because of the shortened season a year ago. I'm sure you guys have had that conversation. I know we still got to get through the rest of the offseason, but are there guys maybe that were in the bullpen last year that may get a look as starters this year, partially because you're going to have to fill those innings?
Yeah, I think a guy like Taylor Hearn kind of comes to mind. I know he's, we'd like to build him up and kind of see what it looks like. I don't think, Jonathan Hernandez, we'd like to keep him in that, bullpen role, maybe, 2 or 3 innings at most. But there are certain guys, I think, the Palombos and obviously Colby, Brock Burke's coming back. We have some guys that can fill some innings for sure, but we're definitely going to have to be, creative in how we use these guys. Because we're not obviously not having Lance Lynn. That's, you can pen him in basically for 200 plus innings. So we got to find a way to get those innings with the rest of our roster.
All right, last one for me, Woody. The conversation about when the season's actually going to start, obviously nothing definite yet, but it was out there today that we may not start until May. Is there anything changing with the way that you're prepping the guys for the season because it might get pushed back?
No, I don't think so. I think we gotta. It's okay if we get pushed back a month if they're ready to go. Too early, that's fine. But the last thing I'd want is for us to kind of get blindsided and we're ready too early. If we don't have enough time, these guys are going to be ready. A lot of these guys are in their off-season programs. They're working hard. If they happen to get an extra month, if we start late, so what? It's not a problem. But the last thing I would want them to do is pace themselves and actually start on time and not be ready.
Thanks, Woody.
Thanks, CJ.
Thanks, CJ. Next question from Levi Weaver.
Hey, Chris, I had a couple of questions for you. One, you kind of touched on a little bit with Hearn. It appears, right now in December that you've got Gibson, Lyles, Dunning, maybe Kyle Cody as potential starters. And then you kind of got a gaggle of guys coming up behind him: Hearn, Palumbo, Allard, Burke, maybe Wes Benjamin. I know you mentioned Hearn specifically, but are those other guys kind of part of the plan for spreading those innings around?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Wes Benjamin obviously is a guy who comes to mind. I think all those guys we're going to build up. I don't think any of them are just going to sit at a 1 or 2 inning guy. We're going to build them up in spring training as if they were going to head into the season as starters. Now, their role on the team may not, if they're our 5th starter, we may only use them, one time through the lineup or however we see fit. But I think as they prepare right now, I would like them to prepare all for the opportunity to, come in and earn a spot in a rotation. And they may have to, like I said, earn it from the beginning, maybe only going 1 or at max 2 times through. But they can definitely earn more innings, by how well they pitch.
My second question is, looking at the roster buildup or roster construction, you guys had so many young guys come up that were 20, 21 years old last year, maybe 22. And then there was sort of the veterans, the Lance Lynn's of the world. And it feels like a lot of these acquisitions that have happened this off season, whether that be Dunning or Lowe or, now with Dahl, they're in that sort of 25-ish range. Was that something that you had talked about with the front office? It's like we kind of need some maybe guys that are not so young, but not necessarily, quote unquote, veterans, late 20s, early 30s guys.
Yeah, I think it helps. I think it helps to have some guys that had, some years under their belt in the big leagues. As much as we'd love to have just a bunch of 21, 22-year-olds who are all going to come up at the same time, it helps to have some guys that, obviously Dahl's had some experience, 3 or 4 years. Those guys it's important. It's important to have that big league experience, to know that they've been through it. They're a little bit more evolved. They can help the younger guys who are just coming up, because we will have a lot of guys that are, like you said, 21, 22, 23 now, that are going to need some guidance, especially from a player. We're going to help them from a staff standpoint, but they need to kind of guidance and to talk baseball with those guys that have been in the league for 3 or 4 years and maybe had a few ups and downs to kind of get to that point. So they can, help guide them and maybe avoid some of the pitfalls that some of these guys went through.
Right. Thank you.
We'll go next to Evan Grant.
Hey, Woody.
What up, Evan?
How you doing?
You good?
Hey, in LA, you had exposure to the president / GM kind of setup that this team is, at least I think, aiming towards now. What can you tell JD and Chris Young about the how that relationship can really work? I mean, what's your perspective on that?
Well, first of all, I was super excited. Obviously, CY and I are, pretty good friends, and we've known each other for a long time. I played against him, but also coached him in Seattle, and I think that's where we kind of realized we were on the same page in a lot of our philosophies and beliefs, just as people. And that relationship has kind of flourished over the years. And so when we got a chance to hire him and bring his expertise on board, his ability, he's played the game, he's worn the uniform, but he's also very cerebral. He's a Princeton grad, worked with the commissioner. So, him and JD and him kind of working together along with myself, I think it's a really, I saw it in LA. I saw it with Andrew and Farhan and those guys. And I feel like we had 6 different other GMs, that obviously went on to be GMs on other teams. So, I think it's a really, I think it's a good thing for us, man. Honestly, I think, just the conversations, especially with CY's knowledge of the game, he's going to bring obviously some common understanding of the game, but also he's very competitive. He's not afraid to speak his mind and speak the truth. So I think a lot of our front office and myself and our staff and JD will all benefit from his take on it. But he'll also, obviously he's got a lot to learn, and, he can't wait to kind of dig in. So however they, divvy up the responsibilities, I don't know. I don't know exactly how they did it in LA. And I know that, everybody's kind of calling certain guys or who makes the ultimate decision, but I'm looking forward to it.
On a roster construction perspective, Dahl's a left-handed hitter. Nate Lowe's a left-handed hitter. This has been an issue for this team. How do you look at what your ability is going to be against left-handed pitching, since that's been such an issue for you guys?
Yeah. I mean, somebody asked obviously the question earlier with Nate Lowe is, I feel like this guy can handle left-handed at bats. I've watched him hit off lefties, and I haven't seen it, personally over, consistently. But David Dahl, we'll have to see. Honestly, like I said, I don't love platooning, but I will. If that means we have to keep an extra right-handed bat or 2 on the bench to kind of mix and match and give us the best chance to win games. It is about development, but it also, I want to put the best, 9 out there. And I want our guys to understand that they have to earn those at bats, especially left on left. Be quality bats. You got to be able to show it and handle it.
Great. Thank you, Woody.
Okay, well, next we'll go to a Globe Life Field veteran of the World Series, Mark Topkin, Tampa Bay Times.
Hey, Woody, how you doing?
I'm good, Mark. How you doing?
Hey, more of a philosophical question here. I mean, Kevin Cash obviously got crushed a little bit for taking Snell out in the 6th inning of that game. How do you balance? There's so much information you guys get these days. How do you balance that analytical information, your trends, your patterns, versus what you're seeing right in front of you? You mentioned before, like when you see hitters, you can kind of judge them yourself. How do you balance all that?
Constantly checking and rechecking. And I think I was on a call the other day, and I kind of stated this. Like, I try to check my gut as often as possible and get some data behind it, as opposed to just making decisions, and really fact check. Okay, if I made this decision and this was clearly like, I'm just going with my gut on this one. There's nothing factual that this guy's going to be the best, position for this guy to be in. And what did the numbers say? And obviously, typically I do know the numbers, but I want to dig in a little bit deeper and just kind of, like I said, fact check everything that I do. I think that there has to be a blend. I do. And, obviously Cash and I are really good friends, and, you can criticize all you want. If it works, you've done it right. And if it doesn't, they'll always criticize you. So there's nothing, he's been doing that the whole year. And I know that Blake Snell did not want to come out of the game, but that was a recipe that had gotten them to that point. Now, all the times that he didn't do that, if he would have done it differently and they don't get to the World Series, then they would criticize him for something else. So, he was honestly courageous in that moment in a lot of ways. Some people agreed with it, some people didn't. That's life. But I think as a manager, I obviously was, inside was kind of cringing, like just thinking about having to make that decision if it's something that I've done the whole year, and now in the heat of the moment, I'm not going to go with it. It was a tough one for him, obviously, and for myself though, we all have to have. There has to be a blend in how we use information and who we get information from. I'm always asking a bunch of questions from my staff, analytics group, and just trying to give myself the best opportunity to be present in the moment, but also have backing to that decision that I make.
Thank you. And then just, you've mentioned you guys have liked Nate Lowe for a while. Just quickly, what is it about him that you like? Just, I mean, the AAA numbers, I mean, obviously, were good, but what else was it about him you liked?
He can really hit. I think that's, he controls his at-bats really well. He controls the strike zone. When he's good, he walks, he slugs. He does everything that obviously, he's an impact bat that's very productive when he's on. And I think, if he gets the opportunity, like I said, to get consistent at-bats, we're going to see the best of him. He seems like he has a chip on his shoulder. I know Nick Solak and him played together. Brock Burke and him played together. So, the reports that we got back were that he fits kind of the mold of what we're looking for. Like I said, a little chip on his shoulder, wants to prove people wrong, wants to be great, wants to keep learning. Those are all things that we really value. And I think it's a good fit.
Our next question comes from another media member who's actually seen Globe Life Field, Stephanie Apstein of Sports Illustrated. Go ahead, Stephanie.
Hey, Chris. You guys are one of the baseball is basically the league that's had the most success doing the non-bubble approach so far. Things actually got better as the season went on. And so I was wondering what you learned about handling COVID as the season went on. And also as you see like the NBA and the NHL trying to do this now, is there any advice you would give those guys on how to do it successfully?
Oh man, that's, I think we were lucky, and I got to give kudos to MLB because they decided we're not going to go past, the September 27th date. Then obviously going into the playoffs after that in October. I think that was the big part of it because obviously we've seen, another wave or two kind of come through, and, COVID's kind of going bonkers right now. So the only thing I can say is you just got to be really strict. You got to be really diligent. It probably hurt our team more than most because we were pretty strict. We didn't really allow certain things, hanging out together, going to certain places, just constantly, washing your hands, wearing masks, all those things to just limit the exposure, I think was really important. Because it's, if one guy gets sick, it's not just that one guy, it could cause your entire team or part of your team to be quarantined. And, we knew the risk that if we lose half our team, we're not going to be as good, obviously. And it was a very difficult year, obviously. Luckily, it was only 60 games. I can't imagine doing it for 162. But some of these other teams, I don't know how their travel schedule is. I don't know what it's like to play in the NBA or the NFL or any of those leagues. So, they obviously, the NFL has more players. I don't know how they, they're a lot more physical. They're tighter. We keep our distance from each other, even when we play. So those sports are pretty contact driven and very tight. So if there's an outbreak, I don't know how, it'd be tough to keep it from spreading too much.
What kinds of stuff were you outlawing that the league didn't ask you to outlaw? In which ways were you going above and beyond?
I think just in our, internally, no family. There were certain things that were really tough, especially as a manager, to kind of, prohibit guys from doing, going to each other's rooms. And listen, I know that there were certain times when they did go to each other's rooms and on the road, but the fact that we put that in our, in our protocols from a team standpoint, it maybe limited the amount of times that they actually did that. And that kills me. That hurts me because that's something that I want our guys to do, in a normal setting. I want them to bond. I want them to be with each other. So, this was probably the most difficult thing we could have gone through as a group. But those are a couple of examples, I guess. And we had an entire protocol thing that was pretty much matched MLB's, but we just had a few things that kind of went over above and beyond.
Thank you.
Okay, the next question is from James Fegan. Go ahead, James.
Hey, Chris, wanted to ask you about now one of your former pitchers, Lance Lynn, he had mentioned that, the Rangers analytics was really helpful and helped him make some adjustments that, helped him take a leap with you guys. And just how open-minded was he to change, and how well did that serve him in the 2 years that you guys were together?
Yeah, it was pretty amazing to watch how good. I knew he was a good pitcher, obviously, and there were certain things about him that kind of, put him apart from most guys. The bulldog mentality. This guy wants the ball. He's a 200+ inning guy. He can go deep into games. All those things I knew and we knew. But I think from the first couple starts that we had him in 2019, he was heavy fastball, typically more four-seamer than anything. And, I think our pitching coaches, I know Julio did a good job, while he was here, of just kind of relaying that message to him and just saying, you got to mix it up. And he's got 3 different fastballs. He started using his cutter more. He still wants to work on his breaking ball, but I think the way that he can stay calm yet competitive, be able to throw his pitches with conviction. He uses the whole plate. He uses up, down, in, out, and then he goes cutter, sinker, four-seamer. It's probably, in my opinion, the best new age version of a pitcher. When you have 3 different fastballs, you can adjust to a breaking ball. You can adjust to a changeup because it's slower and it has different spin. But when a ball's coming at you at 95+ and you have the fewest amount of time possible to make a decision, and the ball's going this way, that way, or that way, it's really, really difficult that guy can execute those pitches. And I think he did that better than anybody I've ever seen. He knew the game plan, but he also knew his own strengths. And like I said, he had that bulldog mentality. He wasn't fearful. He was attacking. He's competitive. All those, attributes that make him obviously great. I think he put it all together with us for those 2 years, and it was fun to watch.
Okay, we're running up against time, so our last question will be from T.R. Sullivan. Go ahead, T.R.
Mr. Woodward, do the Rangers need to find a third baseman this winter, or is there a thought that just say, hey, Elvis, this is your job, go get it?
I don't know if we need to. I think, I love competition. So, if we want to bring in a guy, I'd be kind of open to that. Just make guys fight a little bit more for their playing time and, their ability to get at bats. But I don't think we need to. But like I said, I would be open to it. I think Elvis will transition pretty nicely to that position. I think he would suit that position pretty well. He's super calm, on the defensive side. I don't think any plays will kind of rattle him, or he won't be used to it. He's used to the ball hit hard at him. So to answer your question, I don't think we need to, but I would be open to it.
It would seem tough to have to tell Elvis Andrus that he has to win a job. Is that the case?
I think everybody does, honestly, TR. I think it's, I want him to have that mentality, honestly, because I think it drives him. He's got something to prove. He's kind of, he's not old, but I think, a lot of, there was some decline in his play, and I want to see it kind of tick back up. And I think he wants that. He wants to prove that, no, I'm still a really good player in this league. I want to be, an everyday player. And if that means, he has to play third base or wherever, then I think that's, like I said, it's a good problem for us to have if we have a really good Elvis Andrus that I have to find at bats for.